Welcome back, everyone, to Beautifully Complex. I am really excited to have with me today Dr. Melissa Giglio, and we're going to talk about bravery, building bravery in kids. How can we support that as the caring adult in their lives? Dr. Melissa, will you start by letting everybody know who you are and what you do?
Wonderful. Yes, happy to. Thank you for having me. So I'm a clinical child psychologist who is from the States, but actually live overseas in Hong Kong now. And I'm a mother of three and have devoted my professional career to supporting kids with anxiety, social anxiety, and selective mutism specifically are kind of my big areas. And then also supporting families who have kids with ADHD, and helping support how they parent them in a better way and advocating with the schools a lot.
And I was telling you before we started recording that I'm really excited to see people specializing in social anxiety. As an individual with social anxiety, I really struggled as a kid, especially a teen and a young adult. It still affects my life now, over 50, but I've learned to manage it more. But it really was not understood at all just a few decades ago. And so I'm so happy that you're helping that population of kids and their families too. Where do you want to start with this conversation around building bravery? Maybe defining, what do you mean when you talk about bravery? What does that look like in kids?
So when I think about bravery, I'm thinking about helping kids to feel confident and capable to go after things they want to pursue, to be able to use their voice effectively, and feel like there is space for them to share it. And it doesn't have to be a loud roar. It doesn't have to be, altering their personality. Like, we don't need a world full of extroverts. But I do want kids to feel that their anxiety doesn't have to interfere with their ability to pursue their dreams and go after what they want.
So capable and confident.
Yeah.
How do we help kids get there, especially our neurodivergent kids who get so much negative messaging? They see the differences between them and their peers. They often don't feel capable or confident. So I think the first step here, right, is to build that, to help them to grow that sense or those two senses.
And also to start being able to compliment themselves. I think anxiety in particular are great at identifying what they're not doing well or how they are measuring up to other people, as opposed to noticing all their beautiful gifts, what they, are able to do really well already and kind of what they want to do, and then setting up a plan for how to get there. So often our anxiety starts to interfere with our ability to take those steps of action, and it takes the support from others to really help them feel like they can do things for themselves, and to believe in themselves to do it.
What can that look like day to day for parents, for instance? The day-to-day is chaotic, overwhelming, often a struggle, especially for us during the school year. So what might that look like? We're not really asking parents to set aside a lot of time to help kids to build these senses of confidence and capability. So how do we weave it in?
I think as parents, one thing we can do right away is try to slow down just a little bit. Like, we know that, rushing an anxious kid or a kid with ADHD or any sort of neurodivergence doesn't get the best outcome, right? We get more behavior that way, as opposed to, planning a bit, giving some space for that anticipated difficulty or distractibility or just, that bit of anxiety that might be coming with it. And by building that in and building encouraging statements of like, I know you've got this, really helping them see themselves in a positive light, we can start to build that bravery slowly and managing their disappointment too.
And I have learned from one of my own kids with anxiety that sometimes when I say, I know you've got this, I know you can do this, it feels invalidating for the struggle. How do we find a balance with that?
Usually what we'll say is, I know this is hard, but I believe that you can do this. And that's really the difference, because we don't want to invalidate. It's like when people say, don't worry to someone who is, which is beyond invalidating. Obviously, in their own experience, it feels that hard. So we're not negating that it's hard. We're actually recognizing it. but we also have the belief and we know that they can do it and we're going to be there to help. So I think a lot of what kids might feel invalidated about is that they expect me to do this on my own. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying we're on this journey with you. We're not going to do it for you, but we're going to be here to help you and to get you there because we believe in you. And that belief of someone else saying, I know you can do this, however which way, is going to be what ultimately helps them reach their goals until we can kind of take off, the training wheels for them. They can feel like they can soar when they have that confidence. But they need a lot from us at first. Just like when they're really little. Like we don't just say, figure it out. We walk them through the steps and we encourage them when they fall to help them get up and try it again.
Is there some scaffolding that we might put in place? Like how do we support as we're trying to build that confidence, build that sense of capability, help to reduce the anxiety some? But kids still need support, as you're talking about, even older kids with anxiety. What might that support look like? Can you give us some examples?
So a lot of the support, there's so much scaffolding that we do with anxiety. Like, anxiety is not just throw you in the deep end of the ocean, figure it out. Like we know that is not the best way to help. It's helping them go at the pace that they're ready for by having goals for what you want to achieve. And then the baby steps to get there. And then being okay when you are not moving at the trajectory that we on the outside have decided for you, right? You have to individualize it to each child. That's why, the work that, we do is so important in that we pace it by the kid. There isn't just, this step and then we do this and that. Sometimes it takes longer to get there. And we have to give that support slowly and gradually as they are comfortable in a tolerable way. So we're helping them get comfortable being uncomfortable, but not flooded, not overwhelmed, and not feeling bad if they didn't reach that mark today. It's we just weren't ready yet. We're going to reassess to see what we can do next to help us get there, so they don't have that disappointment.
Talk to us more about a tolerable way. It's something that I think about as a just right challenge.
Yep.
Like we still have to challenge, right, so that we can grow in this area, but we don't want to push so hard that it's not doable or tolerable. How do we determine on an individual basis where that sort of line that's probably not a line is?
I think the first thing to do as a caregiver is, and even an educator, is to figure out where your distress tolerance is too. So the calmer that we are, the more that we're kind of feeling good about the steps we're taking, the more we're going to emanate that to the child. And then you have to read them. If they're seeming like this is getting to be too hard, pause. And that's the scaffolding. You say, I think we need to take a break right now. This is feeling really difficult. You might not be ready yet. We'll just take a little break and then we can try again. So again, it's validating the journey that you're on and that this isn't easy. Because if it was, you could just do it. But
Right.
that we're not disappointed by it and that we can handle them feeling a little uncomfortable. But for that reason, the parents also have to believe that, the little discomfort is something that the child can tolerate too. Because if they're getting distressed by their child's distress or frustrated or disappointed, that messaging is going to the child, and then that's not helpful.
How do we get them to be willing to try again? This is a problem I think we see a lot in neurodivergent population because there's a lot of avoidance.
Yep.
I call my own neurodivergent kid a serial avoider. Like there was always a hard stop if there was even the potential that maybe something would be a little uncomfortable. It took a lot of work and a lot of years to be able to grow in that area. So how do we, again, without pushing too hard, get them at some point to come back and try again?
So I think a lot of it is looking at how they're thinking about these challenges too. Thinking that, this is something that they could possibly do when they feel confident enough, I think will help with that acceptance of how do I take this on? If they're stuck in the I can't world, then it does feel impossible. And they can't remember all of the successes that they have had. And they have tried new things. They have, accomplished so many things. And we just have to stop making everything feel like a mountain. We have to make it seem like this is all steps along a bigger journey. And also how they look at challenges. If you change the way you think around challenges in terms of this feels hard, I should really probably try to do it now because my insides are saying avoid, but I know that I can probably take this on, and changing that too, and to be like, it feels tricky to me, therefore I need to go do it.
What about asking, how can I help you? Is that a solid sort of strategy when a kid is having a hard time to maybe determine what they need or what might help to get them over that little hump?
Yeah, I think if they can articulate that, I think a lot of times when we're triggered by anxiety, we're not sure what we need. So sometimes
Mhm.
just saying, I'm here with you is enough. And then not solving the problem for them, but perhaps offering a few different options can be what's truly helpful. Because, if you think about when you're anxious, your mind might go blank, you're feeling very triggered, you're having all these, psychosomatic you're having physiological symptoms at this point. And we have to get to a regulated state to then be able to think clearly about what might work. So a lot of times not jumping in right away, but also saying, well, you're just going to sit here for a minute, calm ourselves down. I'm here with you, really noticing how they're getting that kind of semblance of regulation back. And then saying, these are a few things that you can try to do.
I'm wondering if there's some like specific activities or conversations or exercises that parents can do with their kids to start to build that sense of confidence and capability more than just kind of noticing when they maybe do a hard thing or something like that. What else is there that we can just kind of weave in again into day-to-day life that might help to build some grit, some resilience, some confidence?
The reason that we started the journal actually is because we wanted to empower parents to know how much kind of conversation and reflection needs to happen about every day. And not everything has to be a big win. Everything
Yeah.
has to be this massive accomplishment. It's all the little things. It's going to school on a day when maybe you weren't feeling so great, or there was a test that was coming up. It's maybe having a friend over who you don't know so well, even if it's at your house. And, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? Or going to someone else's house, or going to a new activity just to try it out, even if you're not able to participate. Like there's so many wins that are happening constantly. It could be taking a bite of a new food that you didn't think you wanted to try and you didn't like it, but you tried it. So it's really noticing and helping the child to notice all of the things that they're doing consistently and also what still feels tricky. And then what do we do about that? And, we created this Bravery journal that's really about helping this approach. Like we want them to think about, reflect, and then think about how they're going to approach challenges in a very graduated, sensitive way where the child is really the one who's kind of directing the things that they want to do. Is it, do I want more friends? Do I want to raise my hand in class more? Do I want to be able to try a new sport, but I don't know how to play it and everybody else seems like they want to? Or how do I join a new activity in the classroom with the people? Those are all the things we want them to be able to do, and they might want to be able to do, but they're not sure they're there yet. And then noticing what went well with it, and also what do we want to work on? And talking about our experiences too. We can guide that as parents to talk about what's been hard for us, to normalize that we all have bravery to grow. We all have things that have felt tricky. And it takes us to build our brave muscles slowly over time for us to feel more capable of doing harder things even.
Normalizing is so powerful and we don't do it enough. I talk all the time about being really transparent with our kids,
Yes.
speaking out loud some of those processes that just happen in our head, but also, being very open about making mistakes. Because if we seem perfect to our kids, then we've given them an impossible standard to try to meet because nobody's perfect. Everybody struggles, right? And so that normalization is so powerful. And I think it helps kids to feel seen too in a way that then builds trust. I think we need a lot of trust when we're trying to help a kid through anxiety, right? Like anxiety is tricky and it's scary. And I'm wondering too, as you were talking, like how much should we really be a part of that? And when is it time for us to sort of step away? I think a lot of parents would ask, when am I enabling? If my kid always needs me with them to do hard things, am I enabling? And if so, when and how do I pull back some?
So that's a really good question. So if your kid feels like they need you now, then that's what they need at this moment, right? And then the goal is actually to start pulling back a bit the kind of support that you're doing for them. So again, they're kind of being more independent, but you're still there. You're not just leaving them. That again would be that jumping in the deep end and being like, I'm out. It's kind of slowly I'm going to stay here while you do it. You've already practiced, and making sure they feel prepared. And it can still feel hard, but you're there with them, but you're not doing it for them. So you're helping them kind of have that separation. And so much can be done with, looking at even our nonverbal cues to our kids about how we might be giving off, I need to shield you. I need to, you need to hold my hand to do these things, as opposed to, you got it. I'm right here behind you. And tolerating that discomfort. And then I want to be able to hear you from, a few steps back. Oh, you did such a great job of hearing. I could hear you all the way over here. And then the next thing. So everything's kind of graduated. But it has to be at the pace the kid is comfortable with. And you have to be okay with them being a little uncomfortable with it. I think that's where we tend to rush as caregivers, is we have trouble when they're starting to feel a little uncomfortable, as opposed to it is uncomfortable because it's a little different and it feels hard. But you've already done it with me here, which means I know you can do it with me right behind you here. And then me taking steps back. So that's how we stop the enabling. Enabling is when we just do it for them. Oh, I'll just do it. Right? Oh, and that's sending the message of you can't handle it, as opposed to I'm going to help you get there. And I'm here with you on this journey. And I'm not just leaving you. That's when we get the panic from kids about like, I can't do this alone. And they're not alone. Part of being a parent is helping them to grow slowly until they feel capable enough to do everything on their own over time. And the rate at which kids can do it is dependent on the kid.
Yeah. Every kid is so different. And I think every person with anxiety is so different. It shows up in so many different ways. And, I know that a lot of times we want to push that tolerance to treat anxiety, to help reduce anxiety.
Yep.
And at times, I think when we get frustrated as a parent or a caregiver, then we lose that ability to show up in the way that they need us to be that comfort, rather than, we show up very invalidating. My own spouse has not known anxiety a day in his life, I don't think. And so for years, it was, I don't understand why you can't just, whatever, to me or to one of our kids. And how do we help parents who don't get it, who really just haven't experienced what that feels like, to be able to connect with it in a way that helps them show up in the way their kid needs?
I think education about, first what anxiety truly is. And I think that's hard for someone who would never really experience it, who just, goes through life just doing it. When it's so real, and having that understanding of what's happening to the person, and then understanding that we all want the same thing. Our goal is to help them be the best they can be themselves, not what the standard is for every kid, what their best is. That's all we want. We want our kids to be happy and healthy and balanced, and feeling like barriers aren't always in the way. They're not creating barriers. And I feel like when we have that understanding about what anxiety is, and that we are on the same page of wanting the same things for our kids to do the best that they can for themselves, that's our goal, then we can help with the understanding of evaluating behavior for what it is. This is their anxiety reacting right now. So you getting mad at them isn't going to be helping that anxiety right now. So what should we do instead? Do the opposite. Let's be really calm and just say, oh, looks like you're having a moment. I'm gonna give you a minute to calm down and to, not put any added pressure on it. And then that can help the parent also regulate themselves to say, okay, I need to go at this a different way. And what you said before was really good. It was about trust. And so much of work as a therapist is building trust with kids. And I could never do exposures with children to get them to meet those goals if we didn't have trust. And trust means you are fair, you are reading their cues and understanding, and they know that they're not alone with this. And it's never going to be a change in plan for what we have discussed. We have to be fair to maintain trust. And they have to know that I know that they can do this, and I'm going to be with them on the journey to do it. And if we need to backstep, I normalize that's totally fine. That's where they are today. And then we keep knowing that we're pushing forward. And that's what helps, I think, so much of the therapist. As a parent, it's a bit harder because we know they can do it. The frustration comes from our discomfort of them not being able to. And some of that might be our own anxiety about, what if they can't do these things, as opposed to, I need to help them get there. Like any coach or any teacher, it takes time. But I need to be positive about it. Critical doesn't work for anxious kids. They're not going to rise out. That's the opposite of what these kids need. They need nurturing and they need space.
Yeah. Pressure is so dysregulating. And so if we add pressure to an already dysregulated nervous system, then we've lost cognitive function, reasoning, rational thinking, right? All of these things. And so it doesn't help at all. I love, though, that you brought the word fairness into it, too, in that relationship, because I think we do often, as caregivers, when we get really frustrated, then sometimes we start throwing things out that we don't really mean. We escalate, right? And then, it doesn't feel fair because it feels like the needle is constantly moving for them. And so that's such a good point that we really have to let them know what to expect. And for our neurodivergent kids, we have to be very clear about what to expect, really define it, and then we have to hold to that because that's what's going to help them with anxiety.
So at first we will do that. We will hold the plan. When they're gaining tons of confidence, we can then be more flexible with the plan, but not right away. And I think that's the important thing for parents is the fairness is it's a process. You can't change the plan before they're ready. When they can tolerate it, we can. And I think that always helps parents too with that understanding is that this is not forever.
Yes.
Because their argument is we can't plan everything. And you're totally agree. But right now, this is what needs to happen to reach our goal. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, all the time you need a comfort level before you can challenge. A child needs a comfort level before they're going to be able to be willing to go with you down that road that's challenging. Talk to us a little more about how the journal works for those who are listening. Is it for younger kids? Is it for teens? Both? Either? Is it something that the parent does with the child? Tell us about how it works.
So it's called the Bravery Grows Journal, and it's kind of based off our children's book that we did, which is really targeted for kids with social anxiety and selective mutism called Bravery Grows. But the journal is about giving that reflection and activities. And the kids are usually around, I would say they could get the journal around age 4, and they can use it up till probably age 10. When they're younger, they obviously need the parents to really be helping them more. But there's a lot of education in the back of it for parents for how to talk about certain things, how to complete an exposure, what's the purpose behind some of the activities, where the child is really starting to learn how to praise themselves and notice what they did well so they can then have a record of it and go back to it. And then it builds. It also has mantras for every month in it, which I think is another important thing for parents is, we want our kids to internalize the positive language that we might say occasionally, but we really want it to be something that's repeated, which is, I'm supported, I have love, I'm flexible, which we know anxious kids aren't always the most flexible at first, but the goal is for them to learn how to be more flexible and be able to adapt. So all of these things are woven in a very child-friendly, really pretty journal for kids. And, we have this is kind of a more female journal now. It's flowers and different things. There's a boy one that we're going to be putting out and hopefully someday a teen one. But that's it's different for the teens. They need to have their own kind of private writings in there and then review. So, we'd start with step 1 is, the younger one.
And we will link that up for everyone in the show notes. Tell everyone where they can find you online.
You can find me online at bravemightyminds.com. The journal and the book are both available on Amazon and some other retailers. For the Bravery Grows book, the journal is on Amazon and available now. And then, Brave Mighty Minds or on Instagram at Bravery Grows or Dr. Melissa Giglio. That's where I am.
And again, I'll link everything up in the show notes at parenting, ADHD, and autism.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Melissa, for sharing your expertise around anxiety and building bravery in our kids. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
I will see everyone next time. Take good care.